section D. So on to section E, health and safety plan. Be resolved, the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the draft changes to the district health and safety plan template for the ARPESSER Fund, American Rescue Plan Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. Do I have a motion? Discuss is after the motion. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Discussion.
So I have a comment to make on the health and safety plan. The revisions in this document, I believe, still are not adequate. The fact that this money has strings attached to it remains a problem. Are we prepared to have the government dictate to us what we can do in our district? Is this really the best choice for our students? I know that in this plan, we are allowing the Chester County Health Department or the state, if they decide to relinquish their rights to the state, they decide to relinquish their rights to the state, to choose what is best for the children in this district, the students in this district, rather than giving that right to the parents. I still feel strongly that we should not be accepting this money in exchange for our students' rights or freedoms. We as board members took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, and as far as I know, the Constitution still stands for freedom. The freedom of our students should never be for sale, no matter how much is promised by the government.
I am in favor of the plan, but I would like to see some changes to the plan. Specifically, there's 3 changes that I would like to propose and have put forth. One is under section 1, LEA governing body will, it currently says authorize the chief school administrator to implement the approved plan, excuse me, to coincide with changes by the Chester County Department of Health as needed. And I had requested to strike out and have it read as the LEA governing body will implement the approved changes by the Chester County Department of Health as needed. And what that does is it keeps the board in charge of any changes that need to happen. My second proposal is under A, 3A, which is universal and correct wearing of masks. Currently we have 2, 3, 4, almost 5 pages of things that we say we will do, in starting with mask face coverings must be worn by all non-students, school staff, visitors, and it goes on. And my proposal to change that is in line with one of the other districts in our county, which the wording can be, again, tweaked either way, but it says where required by law, proper masking and face shield can be used and discussed with those wearing such on school property and on buses. And obviously, the question that I've received on the buses is, it is a mandate currently, even though that we have removed it as a mandate within the school and have left it up to the parents. And my goal behind this is to do the same. I'd like to see the parents be able to control, unless there's a law mandating it for us, the parents to have that choice on whether or not they put a mask on their child. And the way that this is written currently, as long as it's recommended, we would then or could be locked in as other districts in our county currently are. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Oxford up until today, was the only one, Dr. Aragon first, right? Was the only one that had removed the masking mandate and gave the parents the choice back in December. And I believe that now there are other districts doing such, Avon Grove, Kennett, Unionville, on the 28th of February. So I'm not really sure what the magic date there is, but again, I'm in favor of the parents making that choice. The other recommendation change that I have is under the putting the vaccination clinic in the school, excuse me. And my recommendation there was the LEA will provide information regarding off-site clinics providing medical care, excuse me, for those that inquire. Any emergency use of OASD facilities in no way assumes any implied consent by any individual. And then there's another addition. To that, and I don't know if we can go tonight, but the other one is an Avon Grove piece that basically states that there'll be no mandate excuse me one second, just gotta find it. Okay. Vaccinations for staff and students will not be required for attendance or employment. So I think that kind of covers that piece. And then the last one was the physical distancing. It just kind of cleans up the verbiage that's there already. It says any physical distancing required by law be followed by the district to the fullest extent possible to allow continuation of in-person learning. So they were the proposed changes that I would like to go through.
Mr. Patterson, the changes that you requested, where required by law in a couple of these situations, you say where required by law, proper masks can be used or whatever can be discussed.
This is up for discussion, which is why we're doing this. So if that's something that you want to put forth.
I have one other suggested change, and it's under item 3G, where you're talking about the emergency use of Oxford Area School District facilities in no way assumes implied consent by any individual. I think it should also say, and shall not be available for vaccination purposes during normal school hours. Under no circumstances shall vaccines be administered to students under the age of 18 without both parents or legal guardians present.
Kidding me?
Currently under PA law, implied consent is not allowed. There has to be parental consent, so that's covered. The reason that I put the implied consent piece there under the emergency use of the facility is because there's different governance when there's an emergency, and I just wanted to cover any confusion there. But as far as regular school day or under regular law, that's not possible. If I can here, I just want to read here's some language that's currently in another district in our county. It's in their approved plan for those that may be concerned that the verbiage being recommended may put it in jeopardy. And the verbiage under the universal and correct wearing of masks, it says masks will be required if required by law or governmental directive. When masks are required by law or governmental directive, the district will comply with all applicable requirements of such law or government directive. So I think that kind of covers and ensures that verbiage has been accepted. So I think we have an argument if they choose not to accept our verbiage, that it's already been accepted in another district's health and safety plan. Yeah, if you want to continue. The request of Mr. Woods, I'll read the rest of what's under this. It says, additionally, medical guidance issued by the Chester County Health Department, PA Department of Education, and/or CDC will be strongly considered when determining whether masks will be required. The administration is authorized to implement, this is where their piece is down here that I wanted to recommend the change up on the front end. That says the administration is authorized to implement the health department, PA Health Department, or Chester County Health Department's guidance as applicable. Face coverings will be available for staff and students, although individuals are expected to provide their own. Information related to proper mask etiquette will be shared to assure the mouth and nose are covered with no gaps between the face and masks. Mask breaks for students will be provided in accordance with CDC, PA Department of Health, Education, should the district adopt a mask optional approach. Unvaccinated staff will be required to wear masks and commit to weekly antigen testing. So that's not stuff that I'm recommending. That's the first part of that. Because that wasn't in it. Yeah, the circle to here. None of the antibody testing.
So I just still want to make one more point, is that I think we really should think about where we reference the Chester County Department of Health. During this pandemic, the Chester County Department of Health gave up their rights to the state. And I think that that's important to understand when we put that in here, that the reason why we couldn't make a different decision, even if we wanted to, was that the Chester County Department of Health had relinquished their rights.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So, sorry, I was just saying that I would strike through the Chester County Department of Health, where you have it listed in the document. I would not include the Chester County Department of Health as the source for our decision making. And the reason for that is because during the pandemic, they gave up their rights to the state, and it was no longer a decision made by the Chester County Department of Health.
Do these changes that we're looking at, do you think that they jeopardize the funding?
So, to be clear, that's what Mr. Patterson and I were discussing. What's proposed in green in a change, I think, needs to go further in most of what you read. And I believe that under masking would be fine. As far as the grant funding is concerned, because again, I want to point out to you at the top column of 3A, where it says ARPS a requirement, universal correct wearing of masks, strategies, policies, and procedures for that. So I need some strategies and procedures. Whether we're wearing them or not is not the issue. The issue is the second, if you were to look at the language in green, it needs to go further, in my estimation, to include what that other school district included. Alternatively, as I made my recommendations over the last several months, I believe it could include the language, although more verbose, in what we have in our plan right now. And again, that's not, if we follow the history within these health and safety plans, the Oxford Area School District made masking recommended to start the school year and came under a mandate and then went back to masking required. And when that mandate was lifted by the Supreme Court in December, we reverted back to the health and safety plan. So there's no point in time that we did not follow our health and safety plan because we were recommending masks. Now, to capitulate, it is verbose. It is taking into account all facets of if a mandate were to come back on, or a lawfully called mandate were to come back on. And this, I believe, hits all the boxes for the grant and for a comprehensive health and safety plan. Again, I would capitulate that in 3A, under universal and correct wearing of masks, the additional language that Mr. Patterson read should be included rather than just the green language that was added to this draft. Because that then gives us a strategy and a procedure, whereas the current language just requires by law proper facing and shields discussed with those wearing on school property would not give us those strategies and procedures. It's just a discussion, and I believe that could be kicked back based on, we're going to discuss it with you rather than give you the proper instruction on how to wear it, et cetera, as Mr. Patterson read into the record. Again, just that first part, not the other part about vaccines and antigen testing. So, if you could understand what I'm stating there, if I go through each change, I have no issue with the LEA governing body implementing an improved plan. If you don't want myself to have the ability to implement a mandate without calling a meeting, that's fine. It's just, we give 3 days notice and call a meeting and sit here and vote the plan. Beautiful. As far as distancing, in B, any physical distancing required by law can be followed by the district to the fullest extent possible, allowing the continuation of personal learning. Again, I agree with that statement. However, that doesn't give me a strategy or procedure, and that's why we list the 3 to 6 feet, etc. So, are you following my logic on this? When devising it, I need to check all those boxes off to be successful in this application. The next change is under E in contact tracing. Again, I believe we kept in collaboration with Chester County Department of Health and just struck and follow plan. Any lawfully required reporting to Chester County, I believe that's fine. In G, again, I believe that's fine. LEA provide information regarding off-site clinics providing medical. We don't have to be involved in an on-site clinic. So I don't see any problem with that changing. And then I, coordination with state and local health officials. I think that would need to be changed just a hair. OASD may consider all lawful recommendations from state and health officials when implementing the plan. I'm not sure you want to say may consider all lawful recommendations, because a lawful mandate, for example, we would have to do. So I would suggest maybe some language changes there. And again, even if that later is called off by the Supreme Court, that's the judicial process at work. But we're under that mandate until said judicial process comes to a conclusion. Again, just to state, if you want to reduce some of the language in the plan, that's not, if we add some of the language, I think it will be successful. As I recommended over the last several board meetings, I don't recommend a change to it because I think it's all encompassing. Well, it could be confusing, but I've made those statements known each time I do it.
So just so we're clear.
I just want to clarify, in regards to some of the other districts, they adopted it, so, and just to be clear here, I know some folks have said that I approved the plan, didn't know I actually did my research before speaking and joining the board, like some others haven't done on this board. So before coming aboard, I can tell you that most districts adopted the plan from the CCIU. In that plan, it talked about masking based off of the different levels of infection in the county. We did not. If you look at the plan that the other board members adopted, it's minuscule compared with other districts have. I don't feel comfortable taking bits and pieces out of what they have and saying that we're doing what they are, because we're not. We've essentially redlined this whole document, and we've put in purposeful ambiguity here, as Mr. Woods has noted, to say may. Like, I'm okay with the whole parental choice thing. If you want to wear a mask, you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. But if we should put in here, recommended and put in the procedures. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. If there's a federal mandate you have to do on transportation, put it in here. But all I see here is red flags. And frankly, Ms. Keys, if you don't want to adopt this, then don't have any say in it. We should go to executive committee under the guise of safety, work this damn thing out. And Ms. Keys, if you don't want to come because you just want to redline the whole damn thing, then don't show up. We come when we vote on it. She's the one who did this. I talked about it earlier in this meeting. There's students who sat here the other day who talked about, instead of all this, they walked through, the one student, I walked through the hallway and I see trash cans collecting water, bathrooms not working, fights in the hallway. We're not addressing any of that because of this bullshit that she brought up. Under the guise of safety, we'll work this thing out, and not because, guys, we can't work this out tonight. The public hasn't seen it. Thank you, they don't know that.
So we can get
No decisions will be made in exec committee because we're not allowed to. We'll come out, we'll discuss it, we'll present it to the public, and the next meeting we vote on it. And then we move on and we start focusing on some things to help this school and to fix some of those test scores that we just saw that frankly, they are declining. I'm like, guys, I came from another board, from another district, and I'm completely frustrated. We're not getting anything done. Anything. I'm done.
Any further discussion?
Sorry, real quickly, I just would like to say that the comments that I made, they did come from input from the community. They were emailed to the whole board, I believe. So I just want to be clear that the items that I'm raising are not just my personal changes. These are revisions that were informed by the community as per this plan.
You can save your national politics and partisan politics for outside this district.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the health and safety plan. Do I have a motion? Second? The discussion, as far as I see it, is that we should actually have a special meeting, sit down, as Mr. Claus has presented, get this thing ironed out, release it for public comment, and then we can vote on it in a meeting after that. That sounds like a very wise course of action to take. That's my area of discussion. Is there any further discussion? All right, we have a motion to table on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, yeah. All right, thank you. Policy revisions, second reading. Mr. Woods. Thank you.